He thought it was just another drive home, quiet streets, familiar roads, nothing out of the ordinary. But flashing lights appeared in his rearview mirror, and in that instant everything shifted. A routine stop turned into a nightmare when an officer decided to create a crime out of thin air. What the cop didn't know was that the man he was targeting wasn't powerless, and the truth waiting to unfold would shake him to his core. How could one reckless act of injustice backfire so completely? It was a late afternoon like any other. Marcus Daniels, a man of discipline and quiet strength, had just wrapped up a long day at the office. To neighbors, he was simply the well-dressed professional who kept to himself, polite but reserved, never drawing unnecessary attention. His life was orderly, structured. He valued routine. Driving his modest sedan through familiar streets, he was focused only on getting home, maybe enjoying a quiet dinner before preparing for another demanding day. Nothing about this moment felt unusual. Yet, beneath the calm surface, something darker was waiting. A patrol car lingered a little too long behind him, its headlights trailing like a shadow. Marcus didn't notice. Why would he? He had done nothing wrong. But in the space of a heartbeat, his carefully built world was about to collide with an injustice that would test everything he stood for. The patrol car's siren wailed suddenly, flooding the quiet street with blue and red. Marcus pulled over. But, cautious, he had nothing to hide. He rolled down the window, hands steady on the steering wheel, rehearsing the politeness that every black man learns as a form of survival. But the officer didn't greet him. Instead, with eyes sharp and voice laced with authority, he ordered Marcus out of the car. Confused, Marcus complied. He knew the drill, though he had never done anything to deserve this kind of treatment. The officer circled his vehicle slowly, gloved hands running across the doors. His flashlight sweeping the interior like a predator sizing up prey. Then, without hesitation, the cop bent down, slipped something under the seat, and straightened up with a smirk that said everything Marcus feared. A small plastic bag appeared in the officer's hand, as if it had always been there. "Drugs," he muttered coldly, holding it like a trophy. Marcus's heart dropped. He knew instantly what had happened. He was being set up. In that chilling moment, the realization hit hard. This wasn't about justice. It was about power, prejudice, and a lie that could destroy his life in seconds. The street was empty. No witnesses. The air felt heavy, pressing against his chest. Marcus's mind raced. He thought about the statistics, the countless men before him whose voices were silenced by planted evidence, by fabricated charges. He could almost feel the cold steel of handcuffs waiting for his wrists, the echo of a slammed jail door closing in on his future. And then came the weight of the officer's stare. It wasn't just about catching a supposed criminal, it was the satisfaction of control. The belief that this man, this black man, would walk away powerless, his story dismissed before it even began. But Marcus was not powerless. What the officer didn't know was that the man he was trying to frame had more authority than he could ever imagine. The tension thickened, every second dragging like an hour. Marcus stood silent, the officer gripping the planted evidence with smug certainty. The moment was balanced on a knife's edge, one wrong word, one wrong move, and the situation could spiral into something far more dangerous. And just as the officer prepared to call it in, Marcus felt the surge of a decision that would change everything. He knew this wasn't just about his freedom, was about exposing the truth. What happened next would flip the script in a way the officer never saw coming. The officer's radio crackled as he pressed the bag of drugs against Marcus's chest, his voice sharp with false triumph. "Got you," he whispered under his breath, as if savoring the moment. Marcus's pulse thundered in his ears. He could see it now, the headlines, the mugshot, the carefully crafted lie that would brand him a criminal forever. But then the officer reached for his cuffs. That cold click of metal being drawn sent a wave of heat through Marcus's body, anger, fear, a lifetime of restraint, colliding with the knowledge that this deliberate act of betrayal could end everything he had worked for. His reputation, his career, his very freedom, stolen in an instant by one man's prejudice. The officer smirked, leaning close. "Men like you never get away." But in that moment, Marcus lifted his head. The silence broke with a calm, steady voice that carried the weight of authority the officer couldn't begin to fathom. He spoke words that shifted the ground beneath them, words that would shatter the officer's illusion of control. "I am the director of the FBI." The air froze. The officer's grip faltered, his confidence crumbling in the blink of an eye. The smirk vanished, replaced with a pale, stunned expression as the realization crashed over him. He hadn't just targeted another man on the street, he had tried to destroy the life of one of the most powerful figures in law enforcement. For a moment, the world held its breath. The hunter had become the hunted, and as the sirens in the distance grew louder, the question hung heavy in the night air. What happens when the one writing the false narrative is suddenly exposed for the world to see? The officer's face drained of color as backup units pulled onto the scene. The smirk, the arrogant saw of it vanished, replaced with the unmistakable fear of exposure. In an instant, the balance of power had shifted. The man he thought was just another victim had revealed a truth that no planted evidence could erase. Marcus Daniels walked away that night, not in handcuffs, but with a reminder of just how fragile justice can be when prejudice guides the badge. But the scars of that moment ran deeper than the officer's downfall. For Marcus, the humiliation of being targeted for the color of his skin, even with all his authority, was proof of a painful truth. No level of status, no title, no achievement could shield him from racism. His story ended with justice, but how many others never get that chance? This wasn't just about one corrupt officer caught in a lie. It was about a system where lies are too often believed, where innocence is doubted, and where lives are destroyed before the truth ever has a chance to surface. So the question lingers: if it takes an FBI director to escape a setup, what hope is left for those without power, without a platform, without a voice? Every story like this forces us to confront a reality many would rather ignore. The fight against injustice is far from over, and until every man and woman can walk free of fear, none of us can claim true justice.